Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network. Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network brought to you as always on on Spreaker.com, Stitcher.com, iHeartRadio.com. We're on Spotify. We're on Podcast Addict. We're on Google Podcasts, and we're on TuneIn. And we can also be heard on the Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network page on Facebook. You can hear it on my page, which is at Digital25 on Twitter. And we are also in a number of locations. We're also on YouTube and on my page, Gary Williams. So we have a little bit to talk about this week. Interesting situations here. We had an update on a boxer who fought very, very well a couple weeks ago. We had a week off again because a lot of craziness went on in the Washington, D.C. area this past week. And so we took time off because of that. But one of our boxers fought very, very well early part of this month. We're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about some updates to the schedule, some changes in the January schedule. We're going to talk a little bit about the continuation of gatekeepers here in boxing. Whether or not they should be in boxing anymore. We'll talk more about that. And we're going to pay tribute to a man who left us way too soon, and just really sad to hear about. He was part of a coalition of announcers that I was a part of, and he's the second one from that coalition to pass away. And we're going to talk more about that as well. We have some other news as well on the podcast this week. The Boxing on the Beltway Podcast Network brought to you as always by Real-Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, from shoulder pain to muscle strain, everything between. Boxing Along the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the natural, plant-based, safe, fast, effective ointment. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief, now endorsed by two-time world heavyweight champion Big George Foreman. So now try his knockout plan formula for Real-Time Pain Relief. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com, great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods at Deborah, D-E-B-R-A Spears.com. We're back on January the 2nd of this year. The heavy-hitting diva Franchon Crews-Dezurn, the WBC and the WBO female super middleweight champion out of Baltimore, Maryland. She was very dominant en route to a very easy 8-round unanimous decision win over Ashley Curry. It was a non-title fight. Ashley Curry out of St. Joseph, Missouri. That was at the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. That was on the Canelo Alvarez and Callum Smith card at the American Airlines Center. Crews-Dezurn landed at will during the non-title affair with head and body shots. Curry, who came in overweight for the title bout. The weights were definitely disparately enlarged there. But she was punished throughout the bout. It didn't matter to Crews-Dezurn. She'd win by shutout on all the scorecards, 80-72. So another good win for Franchon Crews-Dezurn, WBC, WBO female super middleweight champion. She's now 7-1, 2 KOs. Curry dropped to 8-14-4, 1 KO. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed it, but Ring Magazine now has ratings for female boxers. And in the super middleweight division, Franchon Crews-Dezurn is second in the world super middleweight ranking. That's the highest they go as far as the super middleweight rankings are concerned. So, congratulations to Franchon Crews-Dezurn. Big win, and again, one of the best boxers in the world. She's second in the world at super middleweight division. Now, as far as the schedule is concerned, a couple things. The schedule's been going kind of crazy, of course, for obvious reasons. I mean, so much going on in the world. But there's a card that was scheduled to feature Antonio Dunston L. out of Baltimore, Maryland, and that bout was scheduled for January the 8th, but the bout did not come through. But another card has been added to the schedule, and another card that was scheduled for this month, scheduled for this week, is now going to be next month. We'll talk about that as well. So there'll be a card coming up at the Crown Reef Resort in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That'll be on Saturday, January the 30th. Now, two local boxers from Baltimore will be, actually not from Baltimore, but they train out of Baltimore. But the two boxers will be on the card. Baltimore, Maryland female lightweight Mia Killer B. Ellis. And I tell you, every time I see this now, I just feel so old. I remember her Of course, she's the daughter of Kenny Ellis, the co-trainer out of Upton Gym in Baltimore. And I just remember Mia as a little girl just going for it, just doing some great things in boxing, even as a young girl. But to see her as a pro now is amazing. And she'll be in a 4-round contest against Myasia Oglesby of North Carolina. Now, Ellis made her pro debut back in December of 2019. She scored a first-round TKO over Unica Best in Atlanta, Georgia. That was on the Gervonta Davis card down in Atlanta, Georgia, by the way. Now, Oglesby has lost her first 7 bouts. She's 0-7, and she's been TKO'd in every single one of them. So this may not be a good big test for Mia Ellis, so we'll see what happens there. So Mia Ellis takes on Myasia Oglesby. That'll be on the card at the Crown Reef Resort in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on Saturday, January the 30th. Also in that card, this card also marked the pro debut of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, Stacy Selby. Now, he trains at Upton Gym now, has been for a couple years. He'll take on Jean St. Fard of Wilson, North Carolina. Now, Selby has been a successful amateur for many years, including wins on both the local and national levels. He's fought in the Golden Gloves many times. He's done an outstanding job. Fard is 0-2, coming off a 4-round unanimous decision to Mikael Hernandez on November 21st in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And by the way, this card is being promoted by the International Boxing Hall of Famer, the coal miner's daughter, Christy Martin. And well, I tell you, I've had the pleasure of meeting her on a number of occasions and talking to her. She's a wonderful lady. I've seen her fight a couple of times. She's fought here in the Beltway, and she's just a wonderful person. I'm so glad she's doing well as a promoter. So, and as far as Stacy Selby is concerned, I've always liked Stacy Selby. I've saw him many times in the amateurs. Remember, he used to be trained by Daryl Tyson, and he did well with him, but he's with Upton Gym now and has been for a couple of years now, and he's just been a wonderful. I think he's gonna be a pretty good pro, no question about that. So Mia Killaby Ellis, Stacy Selby, both on this card at the Crown Reef Resort in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That'll be on Saturday, January 30th. Now, a card that was originally scheduled for January 16th has now been moved to Saturday, February 6th. This is a card that was scheduled to be at the Washington County Fairgrounds in Washington, Pennsylvania. And this card featured locals Nathaniel Lee ASAP Davis as well as Jay Stansel III. They're both scheduled to be on this card. Davis is a super featherweight from Lusby, Maryland, 2-1, 1 KO. He'll take on undefeated Johnny Spell of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 2-0, 2 KOs. That'll be about scheduled 4 rounds. Jay Stansel III, featherweight out of Clinton, Maryland, 2-0, 1 KO. He is still looking for an opponent for this card. This card is promoted by my buddy Derek Gianta, and matchmaker there is the great Brian Dillon. So look forward to that card as well. That'll be on Saturday, February the 6th now at the Washington County Fairgrounds in Washington, Pennsylvania. Now, of course, at the beginning of the year, a lot of the awards come out for 2019. Of course, this year, for the second straight year, unfortunately, we at the Boxing on Beltway could not do one. Juan Marshall and I we didn't see a lot of point of it this year because we just didn't have a lot of interest, a lot of bouts this year. So we didn't even really discuss it between ourselves. 2 years ago, I was just tired. I could not get the energy to do it. And this year, there's no reason to do it, basically. Wasn't a whole lot of boxing, especially in the Beltway. We only had one or two cards, and that was it. So couldn't do anything this year. But the World Boxing Association had their awards. And among their awards, the bout on October 31st at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas, the twin dual championship bout between Gervonta Davis and Leo Santa Cruz picked up 2 awards. It was the WBA's Bout of the Year, rightfully so. And, of course, Gervonta Davis' devastating 6-round knockout of Leo Santa Cruz was named the Knockout of the Year. And I can't think of anything else, any other knockout this year that even comes close to that beautiful knockout from Davis to Santa Cruz. Now, the bout itself was full of frantic action. Santa Cruz straight-ahead style clashed with Davis' technical style. But in the 6th, Davis landed a powerful left uppercut that crashed into Santa Cruz's jaw and sent him crumpling to the canvas. A true incredible shot. Just a beautiful shot. No question about it. So with the win, undefeated Davis out of Baltimore, Maryland, 24-0, 23 KOs. He defended the WBA Super Featherweight Championship and won the WBA Lightweight title. And he definitely took one step closer to becoming one of the elite boxers in the sport. As a matter of fact, the Ring Magazine this month, the February 2021 issue, named Gervonta Davis the Boxer of the Month this month. No question about it. And in the rankings, he's ranked number 2 in the super lightweight division. He's behind Mikhail Berklet. Now, and also there's an article in Ring Magazine about the 5 top heavyweight lightweights in the world. Of course, Teofimo Lopez is on the cover of this month's Ring Magazine. He is definitely one of them. Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, I believe Luke Campbell. Of course, Ryan Garcia takes on Luke Campbell. No, Luke Campbell's not on the list, but Shakur Stevenson's on the list as well. So just a lot of the great lightweight. Lightweight seems to be the one now. It seems to be the one division everybody's talking about now. Now the question is whether or not these guys will get together and fight it out. That's the big question going forward for 2021. Whether or not these boxers will actually come together and fight each other. Maybe we can have a 4 king situation like we had back in the 80s. With Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, Marvin Hagler, and Roberto Duran. Of course, she had others on the fringe like Wilfredo Benitez and Pepino Cuevas and other people like that. So, hope we can have something like that going forward. Now, I want to talk a little bit about a couple months ago. I put out a podcast, and I talked about my 5 favorite out-of-town boxers, and 3 of the boxers on the list were boxers that did not have the best records. These are boxers that many people call gatekeepers. These are gatekeepers guys who are on their way up. Some of these guys have to get past these gatekeepers in order to really see themselves as great boxers. And just about every boxer worth their salt has gone through this. You know, just to be among the best, you got to beat some guys who are definitely not in your league, but they are guys who may help you get some rounds and maybe test you a little bit before you get to the major tests in the business. And 3 of the boxers on the list were gatekeepers. Greg Hackett was on the list. Stefan McIntyre and Tennille Goyko were all on that list, and they have under 500 records, and in fact, McIntyre as well as Hackett had well under 500 records at the time I recorded that. And they were always boxers who test them. Sometimes they'd win. You know, Greg Hackett actually beat Larry Hitman Pryor. You know, Tennille Goyko beat a couple of Beltway boxers, Jerry Oldham and Jeremy Trussell. Stefan McIntyre took one boxer twice to draws. Mark Johns took him twice to draws. So they fought our boxers tough. And so, you know, gatekeepers I've always thought are necessary for this sport, because they need to give our the boxers who are the rising stars, so to speak, or the scheduled rising stars, some experience, some tests, and let them know where they are. No question about that. Now, on the other side of this coin are the boxers who we know have no hope. They're not gatekeepers. These are boxers that just are out there to get a paycheck. They don't take their craft seriously, and they become part of what are called mismatchers. And there are many of those too, and which leads to this story that I'm going to talk about today. Mauricio Suleiman, the president of the World Boxing Council, recently received back in November, he received a list of fighters at risk. They called fighters at risk who have had activity in 2019 and 2020. And the list was circulated by the chair of the Pennsylvania State Athletic Commission, a man of Greg Serb. And Greg Serb has been head of the Association of Boxing Commissioners. He is a well-known figure in this business, of course. And what the WBC is saying in this commentary that was done back in December, let me read it straight from the commentary here by Mauricio Suleiman, Quote, "The time has come for the world of boxing to unite in all fronts and fight against the most dangerous practice in our sport, mismatches. It is time to take a cohesive and united stance on a global basis against the injustice, risks, and life-threatening dangers of mismatches in order to prevent serious injury and even loss of life. We must and we will protect the boxer from the blight of an uneven fight." That's a quote. That's quote unquote from Mauricio Suleiman, president of the BC. Now this list goes back to as far back as November 4th of 2020, and there were 48 boxers on this list. Now, out of the 48 boxers on the list, you can see it on FightNews.com. And you probably can see it on the WBC website as well, WBCBoxing.com. Out of the 48 boxers on this list, 26 of them have fought either in the Beltway or against a Beltway Boxers. Most of them have fought in the Beltway boxing region. We have actually one from the region did make the list. His name was Orlando Pugh, out of Baltimore, trains in Baltimore, out of D.C. He's 111-1 going into this list here. But they're boxers literally from all over the world, all over the country, I should say, all over the country. And actually, they had one boxer from Mexico, Roberto Valenzuela, who's 69, 79, and 2. And these are the type of records they have. There are a couple guys on here who have never won a bout. One guy is 0-18, one is 0-15, the other one's 0-9. A couple more 0-9, actually. One is 0-10. There is one boxer, though, who has an over 500 record. His name is Michael Marone. He's 21-12, but he has lost his last 8 bouts, all of them by either knockout or technical knockout. So that's why he's on this list. But I mean, the names that have been there, I remember them so much. Andre Baker, Shake and Bake Baker, Gabriel Baxton, Anthony Dave, Joseph Trouble Figueroa, Marlon Lewis, Clifford McPherson, Brian Ragland, Nathan Petty. I mean, these are guys who have fought throughout and fought a number of our Beltway boxers over the years. And the majority of them gave our Beltway boxers no problem whatsoever. They were knocked out in the first, second round. And, of course, Juan Marshall and I have always talked about the boxers primarily out of Wilson, North Carolina. I know there's one boxer in here from North Carolina, Ike Ezizi, who has not fought in the Beltway, but he has fought a Beltway boxer. He's not fought in the area, but he has fought a Beltway boxer. And, I mean, these are the things that you don't want to see. We've had cards. I've had all the boxers that would face Beltway boxers all get knocked out literally in the first round. Every single one of them. The only bout on that card was a female bout that went the distance. Everything else was all knocked out in the first round. It was crazy. But I agree with Mr. Suleiman on that regard, because a lot of times what happens is that matchmakers, and he talks about this. Let me go to what he said about matchmaker. Matchmaker is key element in a boxing bout, utilizing, applying, and imparting experience, humility, humanity, and common sense by carefully assessing the proven abilities of each boxer before they fight each other. Because for a competitive match, it takes two. Now, the problem with that, I agree with that. I do agree with that. But the problem with that is a lot of promoters ask their matchmakers and basically don't ask the matchmaker to put together matches, but don't give them enough money to do it. They don't give them enough money to put together good competitive matches. So they are basically promoting on the cheap. And they can't do that. It just really cannot do. They cannot do that. And you can tell the quality of the card almost within the first couple of bouts, because you see guys and you see guys that have terrible records going up against our guys who are 2-0, 3-0, and they can't spell fight, as the saying goes. They can't spell fight. Now, when I first started covering boxing, a lot of the boxers who were the gatekeepers back in those days, the Whitley brothers, Whitley twins, Benji Singleton, people like that, and even in our own area, guys like Alfonso Dyer, these are guys, they would disguise their record. They would make up a record. They would be 8-6, like for 3 straight bouts, they'd be 8-6. And back in those days, we had no way to really check their records if they fought outside the area, so to speak. Now, of course, thanks to BoxRec, we have that ability to check records. But back in those days, back in the early 90s, we didn't have that way of doing it. So it was tough back then. But now, with the records, you can check them. And I know I get calls from commissioners and executive directors of commissions that sometimes go over bouts to see if they're doing it. They ask me if I've seen such and such a boxer, whether or not he would be a good test, even though his record is not the best. But promoters tend to put together bouts on the cheap. They don't spend a lot of money. Maybe they don't have a lot of money, and they give us a lot of those mismatches. And what happened here in this area is that, especially the boxers coming out of Wilson, North Carolina, I hate to pick on them, but that's my best example. They got banned from this area. I know DC will not use them. I've talked to Adam Weirs, chair of the DC Boxing, let me phrase that, DC Combat Sports Commission is what they're called now. And, he'll tell me that we'll never use those. We'll never use those guys again. In fact, they told me the night of the card I referenced a few years ago, so we'll never do that again. We'll never do that again. And of course, Maryland hadn't done it for years. I mean, you've got to be a Stephon McIntyre. You've got to be a Greg Hackett in order for you to compete in a bout here in the area. If you have a bad record such as that, on the 500 record like that. So it's a very interesting situation. I don't know where it's going to go. Again, I think it comes back to these boxers, these matchmakers, and these commissions especially, really, really doing their homework. That's why I love working with Maryland, because Maryland will do their homework. DC's doing their homework too. Virginia has been doing it. Actually, Virginia, I should rephrase that, because Virginia hasn't done it nearly as well as Maryland and DC has, and they just haven't done it. Hopefully, whoever can fill the shoes, if they can, of the late Tracy Fagan will do that going forward. Help David Holland out in that situation, and hopefully they'll be able to do a little better with it, because some of their matches, I won't say I almost hate to go see them, but it's tough because you know what's going to happen before it happens, and it becomes very, very tough to watch and very boring. It becomes very boring. So WBC has put together a safe boxing task force, saying once again, final quote from them: "Our boxers and their families deserve nothing less. And in this respect, we will do our best, and then we must do even better." That's from Mauricio Suleiman, president of WBC. And again, we've been very fortunate in this regard, that a lot of the boxers who do have those well under 500 records have not gotten seriously hurt. That's the biggest thing, and we pray that continues in that regard. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We've had our difficulties here in the area, but we don't want any of our boxers to get hurt in this situation. So that's my commentary on gatekeepers and whether or not we need to have them in boxing, or whether or not they will cause big mismatches that we need to stop. I do agree with the WBC on that one. We definitely need to stop the mismatches in boxing. Finally tonight, I do a tribute today. This year, 2021, I have decided I am not going to do any public address announcing this year. So I'm not working for Coppin this year. I haven't taken any gigs. And the obvious reason why is the COVID-19 situation. And I personally don't think they should have any college basketball or anything else at all, really. It's too scattered. It's almost like doing boxing. They're promoting basketball games on the fly, and it's really just weird. That's all. It just doesn't make any sense. There's no fans there. They're hard to watch. And so I decided I really did not want to do copping for a couple of reasons. Number one, I didn't know how well they're going to provide safety for us. And they've done it well. And the last game I saw on the internet, everybody was in a box. Now, I've been told that's a problem because it's hard to get vision going, and it's hard to hear the referee. So they're almost coming up right up to the plexiglass box, which almost defeats the purpose, in all honesty. And so I decided I just didn't want to do it. I'm when at the time I just coming off my gallbladder surgery, and I do have I am a risk for COVID because of health issues. My family is as well, family members are as well. So I just didn't feel comfortable doing it. And around that time, Howard University contacted me, and they wanted me to do a couple of their games because their public address announcer, Tony Lee, had contracted the coronavirus. And I told people how I just didn't feel comfortable. I just didn't want to do it. And the fact that Tony contracted coronavirus really solidified my decision. Knew I made the right decision. And any kind of speaking I'm doing is my job at Arlington National Cemetery. And I'm over there 2 days a week. And I feel safe there because I'm in the trolley. We're all practicing social distancing. And I feel very comfortable there. And I'm only there 2 days a week at most. Well, come to find out that Tony Lee has indeed passed away of the coronavirus. And Tony, I didn't know all that well, but I knew him well enough to make him a part of our unofficial coalition. We have an unofficial coalition here in the area of African American public address announcers, and we're not official by any means, but what we do for each other is that when a job comes that they can't do, they'll look out for somebody else within the coalition. So that's how I got the job at the Capital City Go-Go. Ralph Wesley, who was for a long time the public address announcer for the Washington Wizards, told me about that job, and I got in that job because of that. The late Shelley Bowers Jr., who was the public address announcer at Howard before Tony, had gotten information from Ralph and did a few Washington Wizards games himself. So that's how we work. We just look out for one another. Another one of the coalition is Sean Parker, who is now the public address announcer for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And before he moved out there, he would do some boxing shows for me. He would do some games. We just kind of worked each other and just made sure we all helped each other out. And Tony was a part of that. And Tony got a lot of gigs, not only with Howard, but he also replaced Shelley doing a lot of the high school games. And high school games, Turkey Bowl, which is the Thanksgiving Day football championship, public school football championship here in Washington, D.C. And that's where he was. So he was in that situation. Well, again, he contracted COVID and he passed away. He was also a preacher. He was a pastor. As a matter of fact, he was the presiding pastor at Shelley Bowers Jr.'s funeral back in 2018. Going to miss the guy. Really good guy. Really nice guy. Didn't get to know him as well as I wanted to, but I appreciated his work. He did some very good work. He did I know he did the MEAC Volleyball Championship back in 2019. And I had done it the year before, 2020, early 2020. I had done it the year before. This COVID is a mess. It really is. And I didn't feel comfortable going out there. And Howard has a huge game coming up against Notre Dame on Martin Luther King Jr. birthday. If they can get over the COVID situation. Their top recruit, Makira Maker, has COVID. So, again, this is just no joke. And I'm just sad to see it has taken some really good people that I've known over the years, including my father-in-law, of course. Back in August of last year, right before his 100th birthday, my father-in-law died of COVID, Robert O.T. James. And I lost Patrick Ells, who's a great influence on me, gave me my first really big job in communications at WHUR. It was an internship at WHUR back in high school. So it's just taking away some great people. And Tony Lee was one of them. He was a good person. He's definitely going to be missed. And I don't know who's going to take over that spot. I mean, Tony was on his way to doing close to what Shelley Bowers Jr. did for that job over 25 years. And I think Tony was on his way to making his own name for himself. And it's just sad that he can't do it now. So, best wishes, and I shouldn't have best wishes, but my deepest condolences to the family, his wife Earlene, and the family of Tony Lee, who passed away this past couple weeks ago of COVID in the Beltway. And that'll do it here for another edition of the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network. Remember, the Boxing on Beltway Podcast Network brought to you by Real-Time Pain Relief. Go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief, now endorsed by Big George Foreman. So try his knockout formula plan for Real-Time Pain Relief. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. Great weight loss tips, great jewelry, and great training methods at Deborah, Debra Spears.com. I'm Gary Digital Williams. Thank you so much for joining us as always. And always remember to keep supporting the best boxing in the world, the boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.